Okay guys, so today I'm going to do a bathing video. I'm just going to show you guys what I use to bathe Bugsy. For the most part, I like using mane and tail shampoo to bathe her. But today I'm not shampooing her. I'm doing this special Fade Guard conditioner, whatever it is. And this is just because we're getting close to winter. Bugsy's winter coat's starting to come in. And I don't want it fading in the wintertime. Now, Bugsy's weird. Most horses will fade in the summertime because they're getting a lot of direct sunlight. But Bugsy's the exact opposite. Just like she's the exact opposite with her feet. Most horses' feet dry out in the wintertime. Hers dry out in the summer. Then her coat fades in the wintertime. So she's a little weird. So I do this at the end of summer. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to take this packet, put it in the water, and I'm going to use this little green noodle sponge because I don't need to put it on her directly. Also, there's not enough to put it on her directly. And this noodle sponge is just to move it around her body. Usually when I do shampooing, I just put it straight on her body and rub it in, but when I do the conditioner, I do it a little differently. I also have some White Bright in here because I'm going to whiten her socks too, which I do almost every time that I bathe her, just because her socks get gross and dirty. And then I have my shedding blade or sweat scraper for when she's done so that I can squeegee her off. I don't like using the rubber squeegees or the plastic ones just because I don't find that they work very well with her. And then I've got this blue bucket. That's actually, I think, Waco's blue bucket. And it's very dirty, so I'm going to rinse it out before I use it. But I'm just going to put all the water and the shampoo in here, or the conditioner in here, my bad. And the White Bright I'll just rub on my hands, which you'll see when I do that. Okay, so today I'm going to do a video on how to bathe a horse. I already said that I'm using the conditioner. It's not really meant to... Oh, she's got a little bit of food down there. So if she's eating, that's what she's doing. But like I said, the conditioner, it doesn't get soapy. So it's not meant to really clean her. It's just meant to keep her coat from fading in the wintertime. So first off, you always want to start with rinsing your horse off, just with water. You want to start at their feet. Okay, I had to go turn the water on. I thought I had it on already. But we have a little spout on ours that makes like a fan. If you don't, you can just stick your thumb in the way of the spout. It does the exact same thing. Bugs, such a weirdo. But so we're going to rinse her off. We're going to start with the feet first. You always want to start with the feet because if you start at their body, it can ambush them and scare them. Also, if you start at their feet, it doesn't shock their system as much. And if you have a temperature gauge, then you can decide how warm you want this water to be. We don't, so she gets what she gets. Oh, is that cold? Now when I do their neck, I point towards their butt, so they're not getting sprayed in the face as much. But I will do her face later. Now, I see a lot of people when they do between the horse's back legs, they either won't do this area or they'll do it incorrectly. You don't want them to tuck their butt underneath them. So I'm going to let her know I'm back here. Move the tail and then slowly go up. Notice she didn't tuck. Now she didn't tuck because I let her know I'm going to clean your back end. So she had clear warning that that's what I was going to do. So I just closed the valve. Now I'm going to take my little noodle sponge and dip it in my water. And I'm going to wring it out a little bit so that it's not dripping a whole lot. It is dripping a little. Now Bugsy hasn't seen this in a long time, so I'm going to let her see it. She's not too bothered by it. And then I'm just going to start rubbing it in her body, much like I would do with a curry comb. I'm going to bring my bucket a little bit closer. I don't know if you guys could, no, you can't see that. I don't know. But if you saw that, Rocky just rolled. That was adorable. Hey, hey. What are you doing? Lexi has this thing about getting impatient when she has a bath. It's more that, it's not that she doesn't like getting a bath, it's just she doesn't like standing here for long periods of time. What's great about these little noodle sponges is if your horse doesn't really like the water being, if they don't like you rubbing water on them or rinsing them off with water, these aren't very abrasive. They're quite small. I mean, it's about the size of my hand. And a lot of the time, horses that are afraid of baths, if you use one of these, it's not as scary for them. So now I'm going to do her tail. And how I do their tails is this. I'm going to take the bucket, I'm going to pick up her tail, and just stick her tail in the bucket. And then I'm going to take like a sawing motion on her tail to rub it in. I'm going to do the dock of her tail with the sponge. So now that I've got the white, or the conditioner-y color sealer on her, I'm going to take my White Bright. I'm just going to pour a little bit in my hand. White Bright is purple, if you couldn't tell from the bottle. And I'm just going to rub it in on her legs. You're not going to be able to see this, unfortunately. Now, I always do the White Bright last, simply because if you leave it on too long, it can turn your horse's socks or white parts purple. So that's always the last thing I put on for shampoo, the first thing I take off. Because I don't want her to have purple socks, I want her to have white socks. So do be careful when you use White Bright. You don't want a purple horse. Unless you do, then that's a whole nother story. Rinsing them off, same process. Start at the legs, work your way up. Okay, I didn't mention this before I started, but you want to make sure that you get all of the suds off when you rinse, or else they can cause horses to have skin irritation. This can take quite a while. This is why Bugsy doesn't like getting shampoo baths, because it takes so long, and she gets impatient. But I've already done this side, and there are no suds. Well, don't like to rinse horses' faces. She might get a little antsy right now, because we've been standing out here for quite a while. Some horses don't like, or some people don't like washing their horses' faces. They say it's mean, and that it's not necessary. Personally, I think that rinsing a horse's face with water works way better than just using a cloth or a like a wet wipe. Does Bugsy like it? No. Is she going to freak out, flip herself over? No, because she knows that pulling is not an option. She can put her head up and try to get away from it, but eventually she does just realize that she has to do it. And if you saw, I don't know if I'm going to cut this out or not, but if you saw when I was rinsing her neck off, she puts her head up. That's her telling me I don't like it, and I'm telling her I don't care. You need to be rinsed off there. Some people say that's mean. Personally, I don't think that it's mean. I'm not going to put this on a high intensity. I'm going to open it up all the way so the valve is completely open, much like you would have just on a regular hose if you didn't have this attachment. So I could have that pressed down on my face. I could have someone spray me with a hose in the face if it was just a normal hose, and it doesn't hurt me, so it's not going to hurt her. I'm not going to get it in her ears. I'm not going to shoot it up her nose. I'm going to put it on her forehead and let the water come down. I'm also going to do her cheeks and underneath her chin. I don't want water going up her nose or in her ears. That I'm not okay with. Rinsing them off is fine, as long as you don't get it in those two cavities. Let me smooth my wipes right real quick. And she knows exactly what's happening right now, because I'm getting myself positioned in front of her. She knows, she knows exactly what's going on. She's like, no, Mom's going to rinse my face off. I'm not happy about this. So, this doesn't hurt. It's not going to hurt her. Back up. Back up. I like doing her chin first. Easy. In hindsight, this is not the best place for her to be because I just realized this overhangs. So we're going to move her around. So I was being a stupid human and just realized that there's a top there that she could hit her head on. Which in hindsight, I should have looked at that first. But, so now we're going to do this with her hooked up to this tree. And if she smacks her head on this tree, then she's being stupid. Because there's clearly areas where she can get her head to where she doesn't have to crack her head against this. And she knows that. Because she has hit her ears on this. Not hard. Just lifted her head up, her ears touched it, and she realized there's a branch there. So she knows that she doesn't... she knows not to hit her head on the branch. If she does, well, then she's just being silly. So turning it on all the way again. Easy. And then when I do the top of her head, I'm going to go above her head. Easy. Just ask her to drop her head down. Good. Good baby. And one more time. Good girl. Now, when I do the sides of her face, I do that because I know I'm not going to get it just by going straight down on her head. Now, to some people that looks really mean, and how can I do that? And that's just, it's just so mean to the poor horsey. And you know what? There are things that I don't like having to do, and I still have to do them. She knows that this is part of our procedure. She knows that I'm not trying to hurt her. Come here, bud. Now, what was I doing just then? I was just wiping her eyes off to know she was blinking a little bit. And normally I'll do that right off, but I got sidetracked. I do wipe her eyes off so that the water isn't dripping in her eyes. But yeah, so now we're going to just wring her off a little bit. Like I was saying, it's not hurting her in any way. And yes, was she pulling? Sure. Was she telling me I'm not okay with this? Yeah. Is she afraid of the water? No. She'll dunk her head into water if she feels like it. It's just what she does is she tries to get away with things. So she pretends that she's afraid, and if I act like, oh, I'm going to let her do that, then she gets away with it. But she knows, hey, I'm telling you that you need to stand here. You can put your head up. I'm fine with you putting your head up, as long as you're not backing away. Now she has a pole behind her. Mom, what's the right answer? What's happening? Why am I still dripping? Because I'm talking. But so she did have a fence there, and she knew she had a fence, so even if she wanted to back up, she couldn't. Normally I don't do that, but just kind of how the positioning worked to where I could get this camera to videotape. Stand. when I squeegee her, I always go over once to see if I left any shampoo. If I left any shampoo, I'll rinse her off a little bit more. Thank you, girl. And if not, then I'll just go over her twice just for extra measure. I always squeegee twice for whatever reason. Dan, hey. Come on, get back over there. Come on. Back over there. Okay. Move your butt. Move your butt. Move your butt. Come on. Oh, oh. Hey, oh. While I was squeegeeing Bugsy, she decided to move. She's a little impatient at the moment. Well, she gets impatient when we do long baths because she's like, I'm hungry, I want to go eat. Hi, sweetie. But yeah, so I like to tie her to places where she can move around. I don't like tying in those wash racks. Anyway, had to clean my glasses off. I don't like tying in the wash racks simply because if my horse feels the need to move, they aren't pinned in. If something scares her and she feels the need to move, she isn't, again, stuck. Like when I was rinsing her off, a helicopter went by and I stopped rinsing her off because I don't want to add extra pressure to her along with, I didn't want the helicopter adding pressure and the me adding pressure to her because that would just be too much. Understanding what kind of pressure your horse is okay with and how many they can handle at one time. I don't like putting a bunch of different things on a horse at the same time, which putting them in those little wash racks can do that because they're feeling contained, you've got water on them, and then if something goes running by, that's 3 different kinds of pressure that they're feeling. Sidetracked. But so I want to make sure that I have as little amounts of pressure as possible. She knows if I feel the need to move, I can move around. Like if you guys saw, if I'm going to leave this in, when she was tied over here, she moved to the outside and then came back. That's fine. She's moved around this tree in a half circle twice. So she went around this way and then she went around that way. That's fine. I'm okay with her moving. I don't feel the need to confine her to the point where she can't go anywhere. I don't like doing that to horses. And not because she'll pull back and rear and hurt herself. It's just I want to make sure that she feels comfortable as much as possible. So, my last little thing before we end that I can think of at the moment. Oh, and also I like bathing outside. This isn't what I was going to say, but I like bathing outside way better than bathing inside. Again, because they feel confined. I don't like using cross ties. One little rope is fine. Oh, halters. That was another thing I forgot to mention at the beginning of the video. I always bathe in a rope halter. I never want to bathe in web halters for several reasons. One, if a horse does decide to pull, it's easier for them to, well, they'll break away in a web halter is what I'm trying to get to. Also, if you get too much water on the web halters, it can rust the buckles, and that can cause them to break later on down the road. I don't like to bathe in leather halters for the obvious reason that you don't want to submerge leather in a lot of water. And my rope halter, with the way that I do it, you're definitely going to get water on that halter. And even if you don't spray their face, you're still going to get water on that halter, which is not desired. Especially if you pay this big amount of money for a nice leather halter and then you bathe in it and it breaks, or it shrinks, or something happens to the leather. So I like bathing in rope halters. They're small enough on their face to where I can clean their face very well. They're not going to break out of it. it's sturdy. If they pull, they feel that tension on their pole, and it tells them to stop pulling. As for my rope, I use my training rope for just about everything. I don't like using the Weaver lead ropes when I tie, because if you rust that clip, you can't replace it. You have to get a whole new rope halter, or a whole new lead rope. There we go, that's what I was trying to say. With this one, if you can tell, I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's this little, it's like a little loop at the end of the rope that the rope goes through, and it just holds on to the clip. If the clip rusts or breaks, I can just remove the clip off of the rope, buy a new clip, put it on there, boom, we're done. I don't have to just get a whole new rope. And those clips are like $2 a pack or something like that. I think that was the last time I saw it. Was like it was $2 for a pack of 4, which is fantastic. Whereas that lead rope's like $15 or something similar to that. I don't know, it might have gone up since the last time I bought lead ropes, but that particular one was like $15 when I bought it. The last thing that I was going to say before I got sidetracked and started thinking of other things is, if you don't want your horse to get dirty, and it blows my mind that people can't figure this out, if you don't want your horse to get dirty, let them dry completely. Keep them tied up or put them in a place where they can't roll. I don't like doing that, because when I bathe Bugsy, for the most part, I'm just rinsing her off, and if she wants that fly barrier, that's fine. Go ahead. Roll at your leisure. I will let her dry a little bit, that way she doesn't make a muddy mess everywhere, because then I have to clean that up. So I will get her to where she's damp, but she's not sopping wet still, which could take anywhere from half hour to like 2 hours, because she has so much hair, even in the summertime. Wintertime, it takes her like 6 hours to dry completely, which is not desired in cold weather. So if you don't want them to get dirty, dry them completely, or you can take a towel, just like a normal household towel, and dry them off. I do that in the wintertime. If she gets really sweaty, I'll take a towel and just dry the sweat off, because I don't like bathing her in the winter. Like I said, it takes so long for her to dry, and I don't want her to get chilled. But if you don't care, let them out. I honestly don't care. Go ahead, run out. What was that? I don't know if the camera picked that up. If it did, I'm gonna leave that in, because that was a weird freaking noise. If anyone can tell me what that noise was driving down the street, let me know, because that was bizarre. Look at Bugsy. She is on alert. She's like, what was that? What was it, Bug? What was it, sir? There's a plane over there. She's all kinds of focused right now. So, like I was saying, I don't really care if my horse rolls. It's not that big of a deal for me. Really, plane, you're being very rude right now. I don't know if the camera's going to pick up the plane either. But if she wants to roll, go ahead and roll. Alright, guys. Did you scare yourself? Did the bark scare you? That whole piece would have come down on you, Bugs. She pulled on, I don't know if you can see that, but she pulled on a piece of the bark on the tree that's loose all the way up to the top. It's pretty much just holding on by that bottom piece. And when it moved, the whole thing moved and touched her. Poor thing. She's like, I'm done. So that's it for bathing a horse. If you guys have any other questions or any other videos you would like me to do, leave it in the comment section. Another tip, if you do want your horse to dry, and they do get impatient being tied up, I'm going to go take Bugsy inside. When she dries inside, I'm fine with that. That's all good and dandy. Ooh, Mal. Mal's calling all kinds of things. I have a bucket already waiting for her inside that has hay in it. I I do recommend letting your horse snack while they're drying if you are going to make them dry the entire time that takes them to dry completely, if you don't want them to get dirty. Just because it gives them something to do and something to think about, and also it'll make the acids in their stomach deplenish a little bit. So it's a win-win all the way around. But anyhow, guys, we're gonna end it there.